Universe.
Greetings, I'm Shad.
And greetings, I'm Tyranth.
Tyranth, today we're looking at another Kentucky Ballistics video. I like the guy.
I like his content too. I haven't been watching much gun content lately. I've just been too busy.
We've been very busy.
But I did hear the Demolition Ranch news.
I saw that as well.
Yeah, which is like kind of bittersweet in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like he wants to stop, but for his family. I get it.
I envy him.
Yeah.
Because he's made it. He can do what he wants now, so all power to him.
Yeah.
So, Kentucky Ballistics, well, funnily that you actually mentioned Demolition Ranch, because this is similar to a video I reacted from Demolition Ranch.
Right.
When
okay.
he tested medieval armor with guns. And I think the same, I guess, not necessarily, because look, they're not doing this for a historical test.
It's LARP armor.
Yeah.
It's LARP armor. Now, look, I like LARP armor, personally speaking, when you put it in the context of LARP armor. It's very cheap. It's still steel, so it probably will actually protect you against, like, reasonable things. But it's not real historical armor. That's the caveat that everybody misses.
And so in Kentucky's video, he is testing out what actually looks to be a more authentic medieval boomstick firearm, right? But what is shooting against is not very good quality. But I don't think he's presenting it as like a historical test. It's just like, this is a boomstick, we're going to try it out.
Yeah, but like, do you think that would get through one of our like actual steel breastplates?
Probably not.
Yeah. And even them, they're not heat treated either. So like, that's what I mean. Like, what are we testing here? You know?
Because we do have some like more authentic level steel armor, right? Both medieval, that has been made by Legend. We appreciate him contributing it to the channel. And also a higher grade steel Japanese set of armor from Romance of Men.
Yeah.
And they're pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pretty solid things.
Yeah. I don't know much about like firearms from this period. It's just not something that I've ever looked into, but I can comment on the armor stuff.
Yeah, I've done little bits of research here and there to get a surface level kind of take from them, and they were very inaccurate, hard to reload, but if they hit flesh, because usually they had larger kind of projectiles that would shoot out, they would do a lot of damage.
Right.
But the actual penetrative power behind these early ones wasn't incredible. Now, they did exist fairly, like, concurrently at the same period in the later medieval period as when people were still using bows and crossbows, because bows and crossbows were more accurate.
Right.
Okay.
I would imagine, like, I don't know nothing about this, but I would imagine it's probably just down to like the slug shape, because usually it's like a ball. That's going to be harder to penetrate further than something that's a little bit more
narrow.
Yeah.
But you can also see this is the kind of a blunderbuss-ish, it's not a blunderbuss, but the medieval firearm he has there. And it actually looks pretty decent. You can also see it has a short barrel, okay? And that's going to affect accuracy a lot. This was not rifled either.
Yep.
Again, going to mean poor accuracy. It was very much almost like a shock, weapon, shock and awe, that could do serious damage if it could get through the armor. When the armor was well made, and depending on range, that's going to affect it a lot, medieval armor could actually stop some, but other ones, it could blast through.
Yeah. It looks like a 2x4. That's not a bad thing. It's just amusing to me more than anything, because it looks like a club as well. Like I could just
it literally has a spike. Do you see the spike here? And so it's still a serious melee weapon. And so let's enjoy some of this and share our thoughts.
Cool as it gets when it comes to a boomstick. You have an 8-bore barrel, and as you can see here, it says "Ye Old Boomstick." We are loaded up with a 900.
Okay, that's actually a bit smaller than I was expecting. The size of projectile.
From what I understand, and I think this kind of goes for like cannons as well, is that a lot of the barrels were a lot thicker to accommodate that pressure, because, obviously metallurgy and stuff like that wasn't as advanced as today. So usually you would have smaller rounds with thicker barrels to be able to...
Yeah, I've seen some documentaries on medieval firearms of the day, and the ones that they were testing actually had like a projectile, sizable, bit smaller than a ping pong ball,
Right.
but it was a chunky bit of metal. This one's a little smaller.
Well, I imagine you have to have the barrel that's proportionate to that. So the barrel's like that.
Yeah.
That is 8 bore and a modest amount of black powder.
Modest.
Let's see what happens. Oh, that does not look good. Now, I'm also very excited about the first video of...
So we get a sight of the armor.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny because the helmet looks rather similar, doesn't it, there,
Yeah,
Tyranth?
we've got 2 of them.
Yeah, we also have it. Hang on. How does it feel? That's more solid than the other one.
Yeah, this
That's
one's
thicker.
from a different place.
Yeah, this is actually a... It's not... Yeah, I'm not saying it's a medieval level. Medieval ones are even thicker than that. But I've rarely handled this one because this is our, kind of
Because
backup.
it looks worse.
Yeah, it doesn't
essentially.
look as nice.
Yeah.
I'll get the other one. So these are fun LARP helmets, and they're one of the most popular ones because I reckon they look awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I have one, but I made mine the T. You had your nose.
You cut it out.
There's a whole story there. I think they're perfect. Like I said, I like LARP armor. When you put it in the context of LARP armor,
Yes.
that's LARP armor. That's budded mail. That's like...
Talking about what Kentucky and the breastplate in particular. Interestingly enough, right? The helmet you're holding, because it's a bit thicker, that could give you some amounts of decent protection against swords if you had padding underneath as well.
Yeah.
But most actual combat grade helmets are even thicker and more protective. So interestingly enough, the helmets that we were just holding and the one in Kentucky Ballistics is based off of a more kind of accurate, even though it is debated, but I think it's called the Spoleto helmet, and we can see it right here. And this is one that's built to be a bit more, accurate in the sense, and I love it. It's a great looking helmet.
Yeah.
But you can see the similarity between, and this one that's really popular, and it's the For Honor helmet that really popularized it. Even though it existed before For Honor copied it. You can see what they've done. They just pushed out the ridge a bit and separated the eye slits to give it a stronger profile. But it's pretty much the same. So this is I think it's called, a Spoleto helmet.
All that to say, we have that helmet.
I like it, but there's background and history to the helmet as to its thing. All right, so that mail looks buttered, like you said. Buttered mail. Buttered mail is really, really weak. And that breastplate, you can just tell how thin it is.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't look like a bad breastplate, and I bet you it wasn't too expensive. Like, it's cool, but it's not... but I wouldn't test it as...
I mean, I don't know, if... you have the eye for what accurate armor is. This looks like cheap crap. It's all about scales and where you're looking from. If you're LARP and it's just fun, fine. But if you're a reenactor, if you wore this to a reenactment, you'll get laughed out of the group. I
didn't think we had to say that, but yeah.
We should say it, yeah.
2025. We are in the future, folks. But today, we're going to be talking about some medieval technology. So way back when, in ye old days, there were these guys called knights. And I can't
fault his, information there. This is accurate. There were knights in the past.
Yep.
Only imagine what it was like the first time a knight walked into the battlefield.
What's funny about this one is what they're actually hitting with actual maces. If they gave a proper solid hit, that would get through the armor.
You can see the little spikes that it's leaving behind. That's how weak it is. If you hit actual steel, like a steel breastplate, with little taps, it will do nothing. It'll do literally nothing.
If you did a dedicated strike on the head, that could do serious damage with the type of armor that this guy's wearing.
What a bunch of losers! Well, at some point...
I like Kentucky Ballistics stuff. I just don't know why they keep doing these medieval type videos and they just get LARP armor. Is it because it's just cheap?
Yeah, it's price. You have to pay a lot more to
They
get
have millions of subscribers. I'm sure that there's somebody out there willing to send them that or do it for cheaper. Because I think it always does these videos a disservice because I think they're fantastic videos. It's just you're using LARP armor. You're not getting...
I would actually...
any results.
Because I would be legitimately interested to see someone like Kentucky Ballistics or Demolition Ranch isn't doing content anymore, to test bullets against this type level armor. This was made by one of our viewers, and we can put a link in the description. He sent it to us to test and review. We haven't had time to get to this one, but we've already tested one of his other ones he made. It's mild steel, but it's thick.
Yes.
That's the key.
Like this here, you are not getting through with that little mace. Like the Beck
No chance.
struggles with this. I think
The Beck barely got through, and it wouldn't be a lethal strike either.
I got through with the Beck, but that was one of those ones where it's like,
Holy
this
crap.
could go wrong.
Yeah, it
so
could
many
break the Beck. There's just a high chance of breaking the Beck, and it only poked through like what, a little bit. It's not a lethal strike.
The 120-pound bow, nothing to it. Even with the big ballista we made, barely scratched this thing.
It's very protective.
And this isn't even heat treated.
No.
This is just a thicker
it's
steel.
mild steel that's thick, unheat treated, and also like we were able to cave its counterpart in with the hammer of the Beck, and
Yeah.
that could probably win someone and knock them around.
But remember, that's how you
Yes.
you want to defeat armor, with some blunt force. That's why I'm so fascinated. Seeing if we saw something like this tested with something like that, I am genuinely curious.
I
what the results
I
are.
really am like, I think that could actually block and prevent, an old boomstick, medieval boomstick level weapon, because. Maybe not though. This is one of the ones I'd.
That's why it's so fascinating.
And then I'd like to see modern firearms. I think of modern fire. Well, of course it's all on caliber, but
Yeah.
like what a 22, one of the lowest calibers.
No way.
See, I don't know.
I don't reckon.
They shoot with so much more force and efficiency than old weapons that sometimes you can be surprised at, because it's mild steel. That's the key. Because it's so soft in terms of the scales of steel, I reckon a 22 could get through that.
Maybe. See, this is why I'd love to see this video.
Somebody got really tired of battling medieval juggernauts and decided to make ye old boomstick. And as far as I know, this is about as old school as it gets.
No, there's even older ones, and funnily enough, we see some examples of them in Kingdom Come Deliverance, where it's just like a iron shaft rod on a stick, and it's literally like a stick with a barrel on the end that they light up, and that's one of the earlier, even earlier than this one is a little bit more gun-like in the fact that it has a type of trigger mechanism. The older ones that were just like the sticks I was mentioning, you actually kind of had to light it manually and just hold it and point in the right direction. So, granted, what is holding is one of the older types, but just for information's sake, they are older.
When it comes to a boomstick. So basically what we have here today is a medieval hand cannon, but this is a modern reproduction. You have a very large piece of wood here, a literal stick, and then you have an 8-bore barrel. And as you can see here, it says ye old boomstick. So as you can imagine, back in the medieval days, they did not have brass casings, primers, or anything fancy like that. All they had was black powder. So once this thing was loaded up, your only option to get this to fire was either to take a little stick you had lit and touch it to your breech, or
that's when they did it
fancy
manually.
like me, and I have a little handle here that is equipped with some slow burning fuse, and then you hit this, it will touch it to that tiny little hole and hopefully ignite your black powder. Now, if you did actually manage to ignite your powder and you did finally fire off a shot, you're pretty much just left with a giant club after that. There's no way you're going to be able to reload this thing on the battlefield.
Bit more context is needed on that because it depends what type of setup. If you're in a siege and you're firing from cover, you can reload it. You'd have the time to kind of get behind cover, and it'll be a slower process. But that's where a lot of these types of weapons were used better, where you had the ability to reload.
Sure.
Like this is not a weapon that you just on your horse or you're walking around or in the thick of the battle where you whip that out and you try and shoot someone with it. Yeah.
I think the point is fair though. It's like not a very efficient.
No, it's not
way,
efficient.
so,
But my point is that you could reload it on the battlefield.
Just context.
Context and where you're located on the battlefield, what type of battlefield. If it's in a stationary position and you have cover, that's where these things would be used more often.
So some of them came equipped with a large spike, so you could somewhat defend yourself after totally
weapon.
missing
And
a
that would
shot.
be- I would like to
this
test that,
medieval boomstick actually be able to take out a knight? Well, as you can imagine, I had some trouble finding a knight, so today we have a stand-in. This is a Ballistic Dummy Lab zombie torso, and we have him equipped with some knight armor. We have a breastplate.
and I've already mentioned it's not the best knight armor. And I guess this is where we would just want to add further context, is that if he's presenting this as, could this type of, and the firearm he has looks pretty authentic actually, and if he's using just straight black powder, that should be a good analog for the historical equivalent. But then what is shooting at, this is definitely not a good analog for the historical equivalent. And I was presenting that this is going to be how easy you could defeat a knight with this type of weapon.
That's the funny thing about it, is no matter what happens in this video, I still don't know the answer to the question, because this armor is just not... It's just not legit.
Plate. I have a chainmail shirt underneath it. And we have a helmet.
And historically, there would be a padding
layers,
jack or gambeson underneath that. And the layers of the padding you have under mail will vary depending on personal preference. Sometimes it could be a higher grade armored gambeson, or just a bit of padding, but still padding can prevent some types of strikes.
Yeah.
And then, does he have a coif underneath that?
I don't think so.
And if you've never seen a Ballistic Dummy Lab zombie torso before, this thing has lifelike flesh, bones, organs, and has been zombified with green blood. Now, let's get this guy all...
Do you think that it would get through proper mail?
Yes.
Because keep in mind, mail doesn't do too well against blunt strikes because it has no structure, but actually penetrating through can take a little bit more. You want something very pointy to get through, because butted mail is essentially just a ring that's been pushed together like this. Actual mail has a rivet that goes between each and every link, so it's much stronger.
Yeah, I think a medieval firearm would blast through butted mail, and it could potentially be quite dangerous, because I think it would embed bits of metal and links in the wound as well. It's just because it has so much give and flex that on impact it would bury itself in and then blast through on top of it.
Because it's a very interesting question. If you had one like a proper breastplate on, then you had actual proper mail underneath, and then like a gambeson underneath.
This is the type of test that I would love to do, but we just don't have access to firearms to test it out.
Yeah.
I don't even know of any reenactment groups because they're so restricted here in Australia. But we have the armor that we could, kick it off with.
We don't even have the ballistic dummy.
Before we continue, we just want to let you guys know that we are making exclusive content for our supporters for a number of reasons. One, it's a way to become more sustainable and be able to still make the content, but also this type of content just doesn't do well on YouTube anymore. We've had this video for how long?
Like 3 months, 4 months.
And we just haven't been confident putting it out because we know just putting it out publicly wouldn't perform well, but it's a great video. And it is looking at the best grades of steel for swords, what's available on the market, what you should avoid, and this type of stuff that you kind of want to get. So it is the best steel for swords, and it's available to our supporters. It's either out now or will be coming out, and it's a great one, and you can get access to it for as little as $1 a month. That's all it takes. Or if you would like, you can always donate more. We are very grateful for all our supporters, and we are making that exclusive content weekly. You not only get access to that, but all the other exclusive videos dedicated. This is videos that people love, our audiences have loved, but YouTube hates, and just, it doesn't offset the time and money it took to make it. But because of our supporters, you guys are literally what's keeping us going, and so we are making content directly for you now.
It's gonna be great. Anyways, we are loaded up with a 900 grain lead ball, that is 8 bore, and a modest amount of black powder.
I guess in comparison to small grade firearms, that's a chunky, bit of metal right there. So, granted.
Let's see what happens. Okay, I got my fuse lit. Here we go.
All right, so to me, we're seeing it in slow-mo, but that's not a huge amount of kickback, especially in the sense it's not brace. It's not. It doesn't have a handle where it's getting hit there, or it's not on your shoulder. It's literally just holding the bottom of it.
Yes, it's still basically a bomb. Though. If it gets an obstruction in that bore, then it blows up. It's not as reliable as like a cartridge and an actual bullet. So I get why he's very nervous.
Of course. But I'm looking at the level of kickback, and that actually seems, modest, but not excessive.
He's a big dude.
He is a big dude,
and he fires guns every day.
Also, by the way that he's holding it. Just by the fact that it's holding it underneath and not really bracing it against his body. A lot of smoke. Old school black powder. Okay, because that's like if it was fast, it'd be like a, He is holding it tight on that backhand.
Yeah.
Wow! I'm gonna go ahead and say that is much more exhilarating than a modern firearm.
You know, and that I get because I think the smoke is larger, the kind of explosion, and black powder isn't as efficient as modern day, propellant that they use in the guns. Is that the right word? Propellant for the... we're not gun people.
I'm more curious about the aim. I wonder how you can aim with it.
Well, I mean, point and hope.
But like, what's an effective distance? Yeah. Because when I look at this, I think a bow is better on every single trajectory. The context is what I'm saying.
Nearly, yeah. The only difference is overall, I guess, devastation. If when this hits flesh, it does more damage to the person.
Sure.
And there's more shock and awe and intimidation with it.
Which is why I would love to know how it goes against armor, so then I can see how...
I think it has higher chances of blasting through armor than longbows.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And so there's that. That's why they used it.
That's why I'm curious.
It's just aim then is the difficulty.
What would
see
happen
how thick the barrel
if I
is
were to encounter a knight?
Yeah, that's gonna blast through it. No, there's just no hope. Hang on, did it? Did that actually bounce off?
No, it went through.
Okay. That might have bounced. Oh no, it broke apart and something else bounced off of it. So yeah.
That's not looking good.
Okay, it did get through. Okay.
I'm curious because with real armor, you have arm angling as well. Mm-hmm. With a round projectile, if it's made out of like lead, I'm just fascinated. I really want to see it now.
There's also different grades of armor because as these firearms were being used, people simply compensated and they would make breastplates thicker. And this is where the original term of bulletproof would come from, because what they would do to test the breastplates, right, to ensure that it was good enough to save yourself from some of the firearms of the day, is they would test it and shoot it. And they would see if they could prove the armor, if it was proofed, right, and if it prevented getting through, it's like it has been bulletproof. That's the test. And you'll find his armor, like breastplates, in museums, and these are from like Renaissance and stuff when firearms are a bit more common, and they also have a dent from the test that they did and where they shot the armor. And so there's literally historical evidence of armor that stopped, medieval and Renaissance firearms of the day. The question is, because this is in the period with the really early firearms where armor wasn't really being made to compensate for it, and I actually suspect that's because probably the armor of the day could stop some of those hits.
Yeah.
Especially, you were mentioning that sometimes armor was domed or shaped to get things to deflect. This armor we're looking at isn't very well shaped.
It's very
more flat on. Yeah. But there are armors that had kind of a dome or a ridge that points out in the front, which would help things when it hits get knocked to the side and ricochet.
Yeah.
So yeah, like even our armor actually has a bit of that. You see how there's kind of like a ridge line here, and so something gets hitting on the side has a much higher chance to bounce.
Green liquid coming out, that's never a good sign. I did hit a little low. It's not exactly easy to aim with a stick. Remove
it wouldn't be.
The breastplate.
Yeah, I mean, with that armor,
blew right through that.
You can see how thin it is from this.
Very nice clean hole through the back of that. And it looks like we also made it through.
I wonder if it's even made out of like
just
carbon steel. It's probably stainless steel. This looks like
there.
stainless steel.
And then entered him right there.
Yeah, but see how the links get embedded
in
the wound?
Though? Like, you can get aluminum mail.
Yeah. It's pretty shiny.
It's very shiny.
It does, and so aluminum looks very shiny when...
Yeah.
Did it go? It doesn't look like...
If it's not clear, both of those are not good options.
Some little pieces of his chainmail in there.
Yeah, see that part there? Getting links embedded in the wound, that would be real bad.
I mean, it's a pretty deep hole. It looks like the ball was right there and stopped right at the zombie's spine. All in all, I would say that was a pretty successful shot, but I want to take one more shot with that lead ball in this area, and I'm going to scoot up just a little closer. Because, I mean, most likely, if I was on the battlefield, I'm going to run right up on him. I want to make sure I do not miss with my one and only shot.
Again, I think this is just a misunderstanding of the context of where these weapons would have been used. He's kind of thinking that you're on the battlefield and you're just weaving around people and trying to shoot people, where this is more a siege weapon.
I think he's just entertaining. Yeah. Like, he's not trying to be historical. He's like, yo, if I had a gun, I'm going to run right up on you and shoot you. I'm like, yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I get it.
Possibly, like, I'm trying to think about how valid a tactic that would be. You could consider it a one-shot kill weapon, but because real armor has a higher chance of, protecting you from it, if you're trying to take out a knight with that, there's not a chance that, again, we don't actually know what the likelihood of penetration is with these weapons versus real medieval armor. Yeah. But if it doesn't kill the knight, you're stuffed.
Yeah.
You were really stuffed. And so this is the type of weapon that you probably want to do the opposite. You don't want to run up on people in case something fails. You want to be behind cover and have chance to reload and use it that way.
Yeah.
Or in a line, in an actual, formation, right? Where you either have pikemen around you to prevent, people hitting you when you're vulnerable and shooting.
Basically context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God!
It does look like it's fun to shoot.
Can you imagine being the first person to see someone run up with this on the battlefield? Sir Thomas just went down. He had the power of a dragon. He must have been a wizard.
I'm trying to think if cannons were, like large style cannons were actually used before the handheld variants, and how surprising it would be based on, because that's something I would need to actually look into a little bit. That close, do you think it would have a chance to get through our armor?
Maybe?
Yeah.
Definitely.
See, this is the problem. It's like I have no reference point to say what would work, because it's not real mail, doesn't have like a gambeson on, and it's LARP armor. I have no reference point to be okay, well, it can kind of get through that, so maybe it'll get through this. I just don't know.
I would actually be really worried if someone tried to shoot real armor, medieval armor, that close, because the chance it could bounce back and do some serious. You would need to have real protection.
When you fire a gun, you always have your target kind of angled a bit so that there's no ricochet. And also with armor angling, I would highly suspect it would just, that arm angling will not send it back.
Because especially if like the projectile fractures and then little bits could throw back, I would caution anyone testing this to only do it with real, like actual ballistic cover that you're behind, especially if you're that close.
Well, not with this one because it's LARP armor.
Yeah, there's less risk with that. I'm talking about against real armor.
Ye old safety glasses on. That thing throws a lot.
Because it reminds me of a Demolition Ranch video I've seen. He has like somebody sent him like dragon scale, where they actually heat treated segment steel, and it was like a beast. And I'm like, that's kind of my closest reference point to real armor. So
there is actually a ballistic grade armor protection called dragon scale, I think. You're referring to that?
No. It's like somebody homemade steel segments.
Because actually, that's the other thing we should mention. Because in a lot of the comparisons we've been thinking about, could it get through medieval armor? We've been referencing our own bit of armor, which is mild steel. That's not to say there wasn't heat-treated, higher grade steel armor. There absolutely was in the medieval period. And that type of armor has really good chances of deflecting and stopping medieval firearms of the day. Actual hardened steel.
Yeah.
I believe this is our bullet right here. Oh, it is. Look at that. It is dangling off of the chainmail. It is smushed into it. Look at that. It smushed it in there. That is crazy. So
what's it made out of?
I don't know.
Did he mention
that one?
Oh, what, the slug?
That thing was really moving. I mean, we blew all the way through him. Yeah, I don't know if you'd get up from that one. Okie dokie. Well, after seeing those results, I would say that ye old boomstick would definitely be effective against a knight. And on top,
we've already kind of mentioned, like, unfortunately, you can't draw that as a reliable conclusion based on the armor being used.
On top of that, something that I'm realizing,
though, I do think they would be effective on the battlefield. As to how effective would it be against a fully armored knight, that is not answered.
This chainmail
now, if you
right
said,
here,
how does this boomstick go against LARP armor? Well, we've answered that question.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
We've answered that.
would actually work against you. It seems to be dragging those pieces inside him. So you're actually getting more metal and more shrapnel pulled in you than you...
Because they were clearly effective enough to validate people using them. They were used on the battlefield. Okay? And so I do think in some instances, I think this a conclusion is pretty safe to make, is that medieval firearms seems to have been far more effective in terms of penetrative power against medieval armor and knights than longbows and crossbows of the period.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's a safe thing to conclude, but not necessarily more effective with accuracy or even range. Like the longer the range, the more wild, inaccurate you would be.
And just because something is more effective doesn't mean it's a good choice.
Well, that's what I mean, because it's effective in what things? I think it's more effective in its penetrative power, but not more effective in range, rate of fire, reliability even. Yeah. But the other thing that this really does have, which gives a huge advantage, is that it doesn't take much training to use to be effective.
Sure.
You know, just here are the ways you operate it, point it in the direction and shoot. Whereas to be properly, reliably accurate with, say, a longbow, a war level longbow, that takes years of training.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference. That's why crossbows were still used so regularly in comparison to longbows, because crossbows have a very low rate of fire as well. Yeah. But it's fact that it's so much easier to use and aim.
You would have if you weren't wearing this extra protective layer. So we've hit Mr. Zombie Knight with one large solid lead ball, but now I want to know what happens when we hit him with several smaller lead balls, also known as ye old buckshot. Now this right here,
I don't think it would have actually been called buckshot, but yeah. It's casual, I know.
It's a double-aught buck pellet, and typically in a 12-gauge shotgun, you would hold 9 of these. But that's too small for ye old boomstick.
I'm wondering if they did that.
Here,
I don't know if they did this
I believe
with old medieval firearms.
Quintuple-aught buck.
I'm thinking it doesn't matter because it's LARP armor.
Well, here's the thing. Like,
diameter, and
going to this, right, gives even less chances of it getting through armor. And though this might get through the LARP stuff, if you're going to be struggling to get through proper, thick medieval armor, resorting to this means there's even less chances of getting through.
Yeah.
We're going to hit that berm. So I'm going to take a few extra precautions just in case we have a ricochet. You know, because I don't need another neck scar and I kind of like my teeth. Oh, did I even hit him?
Interesting how it's holding it up now. Is that like a modern thing?
He's just trying to aim.
Yeah. Look, it didn't even get through the LARP.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ow!
That's particularly ineffective, so I don't think they would have done that often at all.
What the heck? Look at it. It burned a hole through my glove. Ah.
That's
I don't
interesting.
even think I hit it. So it appears that the buckshot
What's funny
would not
is that shot right there, because it's so soft, the LARP armor, the armor angle, it hit the armor angling where it should work perfectly, but it's so soft it just
still.
yeah.
be as effective against a knight as the solid lead ball. We have a hit right here, and it did not make it through the armor. And we have several hits.
See, that's why, like, when you can't even get through LARP armor, that's when you're like,
Yeah. Well, like I said, LARP armor is perfectly fine. Like,
well, LARP armor could stop a sword strike.
exactly.
But against a Beck, nah.
But let's put it into this context a little bit more modern day. Let's just say you live in a country where, I don't know, armor is not allowed. LARP armor is legal pretty much everywhere because it's a cosplay. So if, let's just say you're in, I don't know, some country like, off the top of my mind, maybe the UK, I don't know.
A place, because they're not having issues.
No, because knights are from the UK, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's why. Yeah, it's definitely not knife crime or anything like that.
It could stop just for example, a knife.
Yeah, I think it could, yeah.
So put in that context, LARP armor is actually wicked. So like,
it's the context, yes.
There's levels here.
On his helmet, that one right there hit him real good.
See, that should have more ricocheted off the air.
No,
The
he's
damage it
looking
did
pretty
is
The helmet
way too much.
did its job. He does not have any kind of injuries to his head or face or his neck. He's looking pretty solid. So I would not recommend buckshot against knights for ye old boomstick. Stick with the big balls. At this point, there's only one thing left to do, and that is blast him in the helmet with a solid 900 grain lead ball. That could have gone bad. Well, right now is one of those moments for me. I'm glad you could be here for it and enjoy it with me. I 100% expected that to at least make it through the first layer of this helmet. But
Interesting.
as you can see right here, it 100% did not.
Interesting.
I think
I think you're picking up on the same thing.
he hit a proper steel pivot point.
But also, I think he also hit on the double layer. He hit right there, which is double the thickness, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Because look, the pivot point was there,
well, hang on, let's.
and it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. He hit right, bang, smack.
Look at this pivot point on
Oh
this
yeah,
one.
that
for
one.
example.
That one's even thicker.
Like this is a big steel rivet.
See, I'm not sure. I think it probably even stopped it if it just hit it on the flat of
2 layers.
2 layers.
Because the LARP armor here is rolled over as well.
This is interesting because this actually gives us a bit more feedback from his test, because if just a mere 2 layers of LARP grade armor was able to stop that, that makes me think, oh, this has even less of a chance getting through actual thick, 2 mil, like mild steel breastplate.
Yeah.
Wow, that is interesting. That makes it far less impressive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, we did not make it through the helmet, but thankfully, nothing made it through me also. Yes.
I think he's realizing that, okay, if this could have stopped it, that could have ricocheted it.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. If you're going to be hitting something that's going to prevent penetration, you're in danger. You should be careful.
It is crammed into the side of his head. But you know what? Before I take this helmet off, I need to test out one more thing. We have yet to test out ye old spike.
I think that spike will get through. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. It's like hitting into tinfoil.
Well, who would have thought
Yes.
that the spike was more effective than the lead?
Like we said, I think the helmet's interesting because there's also different, there's different levels to LARP armor as well.
Yes,
sometimes you can
there
get
is.
thicker steel, sometimes you
We
get thinner
literally
steel.
have 2 examples where same looking helmet, but one is actually considerably chunkier.
Yeah,
thicker.
and the moment you hit something that is still LARP, but is just that tiny bit thicker, maybe on where it's rolled over a bit, it doesn't get through. So now I'm like, do I think that could get through a properly made steel breastplate with butted mail, with a riveted mail and a gambeson? Probably not.
Yeah, I'm thinking no as well. Now, as to what's more effective, context, all because yeah, you could get through that thin armor with that spike. I don't think he might be able to penetrate our breastplate because we've tested with the Beck spike, which is somewhat comparable but less leverage on it, and that penetrated a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's a chunky looking spike. I don't think enough to be lethal though.
What I would be more curious about is if you actually did try to get through with that spike on a steel breastplate, if it'll damage it.
Yeah.
Because the Beck has taken damage from hits like that.
It
before.
has. It
So,
has.
and the Beck has a lot more power in it as well.
And it's built for it, that type of impact. Where
Yeah.
this, I'm not sure if that spike is attached to the bottom barrel of the gun
Yeah.
there, and that it goes through the wood. Because if it is, if you really try and hit something solid with that spike, it could potentially damage the barrel
Yeah.
and knock it loose.
And that's not what you want.
I wonder if back in the medieval times they had places where you could go learn to repair armor and whatnot, like SDI.
Oh, like armor, if you had real armor as damaged as that, you're in like replacement territory now. It's not worth repairing.
Yeah.
This is where Brigandine was actually more useful because Brigandine is made out of smaller, segmented bits of plate, and you can replace the squares or the sections bit at a time, and it's far more repairable than this breastplate.
Link in the description. Oh. Yes. All right. We have a pretty big dent right there in that helmet.
I think, and look, this is not a slight against Kentucky Ballistics, it's not a medievalist or anything like that. I actually do think he thinks this is legitimate medieval level armor, though.
I don't think so, because there's a lot of these videos they've done, and I swear in every comment section, people are like, hey, great video, but that's not how. And it happens to all these people who do these sorts of LARP testing videos.
But he hasn't given a single caveat and is always presenting it as this is like, a medieval knight. This is the damage that would happen. I don't think... and it's not, again, not a slight. It's not a medievalist. It's,
helmet.
Maybe.
Looks like you would not have an ear. His ear is busted. And yes, skull is definitely cracked. At the least, you would have a very severe concussion. At the worst, I'd say that'd probably be the end. Especially if you got caught.
That's a good question. So, against a real medieval helmet, right? I don't think it would actually penetrate. Some of those helmets were really thick, right?
And they're also different designs, which help for different things.
Question then is, how much blunt force damage do you reckon would actually get through? Because I still think it would not feel good getting shot in the head with a medieval helmet. Even that could stop it, right? Like, you're going to be feeling that on the inside. The ringing would be pretty high. I think that could actually still do some solid, dangerous damage.
I think it depends what helmet it is.
Yeah.
What type it is. Because these ones here, like the one that he's testing, they're very tight to your head. They're a bit small.
Yeah, there were helmets that actually had like some helmets even had you had a cloth coif, then a metal skull cap, which is another actual technically steel helmet, right? Then a coif over top that, a padded coif, and then the full helmet on top. And there was 4 layers, and one was actually an additional layer of steel. Oh, sorry, chainmail coif, then metal skull cap on top of that, then the helmet. Okay, when you get to layers like that, you're probably pretty safe, I would say.
Yeah.
But you're right, if it's a bit tighter fitting...
Well, the reason why I bring it up is because we literally have these helmets that he's testing, and I have my own one of them, and they are all really...
Pretty snug.
Pretty snug on your head.
And because then, if there was a solid dent in the helmet, right, that could still crack your skull.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That spike, my goodness, that is awful. Busted through it. Other than us not making it through the helmet, I'm pretty impressed with ye old boomstick.
Yeah, we've already mentioned you can't really gauge that. Though the most interesting thing for me is the fact that the double layer on the helmet stopped it.
So that's why I think that if he had maybe real mail, maybe that would stop it.
That's true. Because I did not expect that a LARP grade double layer would be able to stop.
Yeah.
Because that's how thick do you reckon this helmet is here? 0.5 mil or less?
Well, that's probably like a mil.
Pretty sure this is 2 mil.
Yeah.
And this is 1 mil. And that's interesting. So 2 mil seems to be enough, 2 millimeters, to stop that level firearm.
But there's also different grades of steel. There's a whole bunch of caveats there.
And that hit flat on as well and it stopped it, let alone potential for ricochet.
Yeah.
So, look, overall, love Kentucky Ballistics. I still think it's a hell of a fun video. It's just some additional commentary and, context to be added that we wanted to share with that.
Yeah. Not much to say about the actual boomstick itself. It's more just the armor, because it's so common.
Yeah.
I think that's why our armor myth-busting videos did so well.
They did do
And that's
pretty
why I
good.
wanted to do them in the first place, because I was like, there's so many videos out there. If you watch, medieval armor, this or that, it's always LARP armor, which I get when, maybe somebody is not into it.
Yeah.
So I think when we show, hey, this is like mid-tier armor.
Yeah,
It's not even good armor.
It's legit medieval, but still mid-tier on the medieval
When I
scale.
say it's not good, I don't mean it's not good quality. I just mean it's not the highest quality out there. And it could tank a whole bunch of stuff.
Surprising. And if you guys want to check out that video, it's right here, debunking, armor myths. And you might be surprised of how even mid-grade medieval armor, what it can stop.
Yeah.
So check it out. It's right there.
It is.